Hey everyone, welcome to another top 10 list. This week's top 10 list is the top 10 graded notes in my collection. This list was recommended to me by Patrick Dolinsky. Patrick's been a long-time subscriber. I bet he was one of the first 50 people to subscribe to my channel. He's been with me for a long time, always leaves great comments. Please go check out his channel, drop him a like, tell him thanks for suggesting the list. Patrick wanted to see the top 10 graded notes in my collection, and when I started going through, well, what a coincidence. I have exactly 10 graded notes in my collection. I don't usually go out buying graded notes, but I did stumble across a couple of them, and I'll talk more about those as we get through them. So let me get this out of the way. I've got Patrick Dolinsky up there, and let's take a look at what I've got. Number 10. Number 10 on my graded notes, this particular bill is a 1977 Federal Reserve $50 bill. It's a star note. It's in okay shape. It's not the greatest. If I look at it, it's graded a 35, choice very fine. And if I remember right, there's like a ding in the corner or something. There was a fold in one of these corners. It doesn't come through too well, but yeah, there was a little crease in there. Anyway, the reason why I put this one at number 10 is I got this at an auction for $51. Now, this note explains everything you need to know as to why I do not send notes in for grading. First of all, when I got it in the auction, somebody, I don't know if they tried to cut the note out and then retaped over it. I don't understand what the deal is there. So there's this gigantic thick piece of tape here. But anyway, I paid $51 for this note. 1977 star note. If you send this in to get graded, I've sent one note in to get graded, and it cost me $80, and that note, of course, is on this list. So I don't know why somebody would send something like this in to get graded. Maybe this was their freebie. Maybe they had, grade 10 notes and get 5 free or something. I don't know what the deal was, but this is a great explanation as to why I do not send notes in, because, like I said, I got this for $51. I'm sure the grading was more than $1, so my gain, their loss, I guess. Anyway, that's number 10. Number 9. Number 9, I've got an error note. This is an offset printing error. It is graded as a 20. It's a partial back-to-face offset error. And if you look, this is definitely the back of the note. Here's the front of the note. It's a silver certificate, and that kind of intrigued me. I thought that was neat to find an older note with an error. So that's the silver certificate. But if you look, they started the two ends of the printing press before they put in the page. So what happened is the picture of George got printed on the back plate. Then when the paper went through, the front of George got printed on this side the way it's supposed to, but the wet ink that was printed on the back of the plate got printed on the back side of this one. And it's interesting to see because it's at an angle like that. So this was one of the first ones to roll off that way because of that angle. As everything started, only half of this was done the first time. So that was kind of interesting. Once again, it's graded 20. I liked this particular note graded because I know it was authentic. That was the main reason I wanted to get that. Because back when I got this one, I wasn't as aware of things as I am now. So I bought this with a little more confidence knowing that it was graded. So that one's number 9. Number 8. Another error note that I got. This one was the highest graded note that I have. This one is a 58, actually. This one is a 1977 $20 bill. $20 bill, you can see, has a giant ink stain. It's a drop of green ink that got on the bill and got smudged, of course. The front of the bill looks like your standard note. Now, this one is interesting because it's a 58, and it's got this little mark here. And I was wondering if this was going to show up. But there's like a little divot right here. You can see that right there. I don't know if I should try zooming in. You can see that right there, and that's front and back on that thing right there. So those were the two reasons why this one got a 58. I just thought it was an interesting note, and once again, when you're collecting errors, there's a lot of ways people can fake that. That could have been a green marker for all we know. But by getting this, having this note graded, I know it's the real deal. So that helped me buy with confidence once again. So that's number 8 on my list. Number 7. This was one of the more surprising notes to me. This is a 1928 gold certificate, graded out as a 20. The gold certificates are cool because it says gold certificate. It's got the gold here, gold lettering. The back is your standard back. But the back of this note pretty much tells the tale. Like I said, this one is graded as a 20. But when you start looking at it on the back, you can see that there are some major creases going through this note. And you can see on the top there's wear. I mean, literally pieces missing there. So yeah, I was surprised that this graded as high as a 20. It's actually nice to have something like this because it gives you an idea of how bad a note can be and yet still get a 20 for a grade. So that was part of the reason I bought this. Once again, when the note says 20, okay, it's hard to argue with the grade at that particular point in time, but more so I'd have something to compare other notes to, is why I got this particular note as a graded note rather than a raw note. So that's number 7. Number 6. This one will probably look familiar. This is my 1923 legal tender. Grades out at a 25. 1923 legal tender. It is one of the large size notes. One of the more recent notes I've added to my collection. Because of that, I decided I was going to get a graded one. I've got quite a few notes now, and I don't have a lot that are graded. I tend to get mine mostly raw because, well, people tend to guess at what the grade is whenever it's raw. And when you're talking a raw note, well, first of all, you're saving the cost of the grading. Secondly, there's discrepancies that can be made. You know, they think it's a 20, they think it's a 30, they think it's a 25. Okay, well, if I can get that note that everybody says is anywhere from 20 to 20 or 20 to 30, if I can get that for the price of just under a 20, I'll do that. But this particular one had a great price on it. I was able to scoop this one up. So that is my 1923 Red Seal legal tender. Grades out at a 25. Does have some major creases, but everything is still the way it's supposed to be. All right, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Number 5. Halfway through the list, I've got my $1 1896 educational note. The silver certificate from 1896. This particular note grades out at a 25. It's nice that they put educational note on there. I've got other educational notes that are graded that don't have that on there, so that's just nice to see. 1896 silver certificate graded at 25. This one I bought graded, of course. I did not get this one graded. It's interesting because looking at the condition, you can see it's got some rough stuff on there. It's even got some rust. It even says minor rust on part of the grading there. So yeah, I was surprised that this particular note got such a high grade. It lists out at 25. And once again, it's good to have notes like this because it lets you know when you see a note in this condition in the raw, a better idea of what it would be if it was graded. Next up, I've got my 1934 $500 bill. Now, this one grades out at a 30, and it's got the light green seal. The light green seal, you can see right here, known as the lime seal, lime green seal. Fairly low number, starting with 3 zeros, number 62,104 on that particular one. I was looking for a $500 bill, and there was a graded one and an ungraded one side by side, both for the same price, so I decided I would take the graded one because they looked about equal in value and equal in condition, I should say. So I knew their value should be the same, and I know someone paid a premium to get this one graded. So I decided I'd take the graded one for the same price. That way, once again, I don't have to negotiate with anybody if I ever decide to sell it because it's graded a 30. At this point, one of the things I should mention, this one was graded by Paper Money Guarantee. Most of my bills are graded by PMG. The two main ones are PMG, and then there's this one here, which is PCGS. Now, these two are your most reputable ones. There's another company out there called Legacy that I've seen. I don't know much about Legacy. I don't have any notes that were graded by Legacy. I tend to shy away from that because it's a brand that I have not heard of. So when you're talking about grading in general, you're looking for PMG or PCGS for the most part. All right, number 3 on the list. Bringing out my 1862 legal tender. This one graded out at 35, and it got the EPQ designation, which is exceptional paper quality. This one grades out, like I said, at a 35, and I wonder exactly why. I wonder if it's because it was off-cut and has the print marks that are showing on there. Because looking at this note up close, There's not a whole lot wrong with this note. Not a whole lot at all. Now, as far as being perfect, no, it's cut crooked. I get that. Being an EPQ designation tells you how good the paper was. Taking a look at the back, you can see it's, this is just on the case there. It's pretty good. Yeah, it's a little off center top to bottom. That's why you get that mark there. But yeah, there aren't any creases. There's no writing. There's nothing on there. This note is exceptional, and yet it only got a 35. Now, this note I got because of, I guess you'd call it eye appeal. It grades at a 35, which sounds fairly low based on the condition. So if you were to compare this to other 35s, you would also wonder why this one was graded as low as it was. It has a very nice eye appeal, and because of that, I can probably get a little bit more for it if I tried to sell it, more than what a 35 is worth, just based on the eye appeal alone. Number 2. Speaking of eye appeal, here is eye appeal for you. This is my 1896 $2 educational note. Now, this was the only note that I ever bought raw and actually sent in. And like I said, it cost me about $80 to have it sent in and get graded and get returned. This one graded out as a 25. And when you look at this note is spectacular. There is hardly anything wrong with this note at all, which made me wonder why some of my other notes graded as low as they did when you see how nice this particular note is. Now, it wasn't until I turned the note over, even the back of this note is just exceptional, just really, really nice. But it only graded a 25. They gave it a 25 because they said minor repairs. And it actually took me about 2 or 3 months to figure out what the repairs are. And what happened was this note was actually printed slightly off center, and somebody trimmed the note. So the note is about 1/16 of an inch too short. And by them trimming it, they made everything centered on it. Now, one of the things that's interesting about grading notes is you cannot get the EPQ, Exceptional Paper Quality designation, on a note that's under 35. 35, I believe, is the lowest grade that they will give the EPQ designation. This note would probably have qualified for that designation if it got a high enough grade. But because that note was trimmed, you can see, even though the note is so nice, the trimming of that note affected the value that much. It's better to have pieces missing of the note than it is to trim it. I don't understand that concept, but so be it. This note's trimmed and got a 25, and this note got a 20, and it's just missing pieces. So you go figure. All right, so that's number 2. Number 1 of all my graded notes. It is my Lazy Deuce. Lazy Deuce graded very good 8. Providence, Rhode Island, 1865, if I remember correctly. You can take a look. It's got the deuce laying on its side. That's why it's got the name. Providence, Rhode Island was the bank, American National Bank of Providence. This note is just super cool. These are so rare. The only way I could afford one was to get one in a low grade like this. And I also was a little worried because as I was going through auctions, I was seeing something called contemporary reproductions, and those were selling for a lot of money. Well, I didn't want a contemporary reproduction. I don't even know exactly what that is. I wanted the real deal, so I had to reach out and spend a little bit more to actually get a graded note. Now, the last thing I wanted to do was buy a raw note for as much as these are and then send it in to get graded and then find out that it wasn't authentic. So for a note like this, I hunted out a graded note. Now, it does have NET on there. NET is essentially the currency version of details on a coin. I think I'm using that correctly. You can see on the back, repaired, overprint, redrawn. That's where you get the net thing. Whenever there's any repairs that are made, which, like I said, would go the same for cleaning on a coin or anything else you do with a coin. NET, that's what you get when you have currency that's gone through something other than normal wear and tear. So that is my top 10 list of graded notes. Like I said, top 10 list, I should say it's all 10 of my graded notes. Now, I do plan on getting more notes that are graded in the future. I don't know that I'm actually going to send in any of my notes to get graded as much as I probably should, but like I said, there's, it gets up there. I mean, if I send in 10 notes at $80 a crack, that's $800. You know how many nice notes I could get with $800? So do I want a designation on a note, or do I want $800 more of cool notes? Tough call. Anyway, Patrick Dolinsky, thank you very much for suggesting this list. I appreciate it. Check out his channel, guys. Make sure to thank him, and make sure to drop him a like and a sub over there. If you guys have any ideas for a list you'd like to see, please leave that down in the comments, and I will do my best to try to make that happen for you. Thanks again for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next week.